All right, we're back with the Goku and DC Remastered story, and in this episode, Goku fights with Wonder Woman, and you guys got the last video to 1,000 views in one day, so let's keep that up if y'all want more of these episodes real quick. All right, real quickly. All right, I guess I could do a recap on this, but y'all can go watch the video for more information. This ain't gonna be like a recap like I usually do on my other videos. I'm gonna do this real brief and tell you what basically happened. All right, so let's get to that. Basically, Clark Kent, aka Kal-El, aka Superman, lands on the Kent farm like he does normally. And as he grows up later on, Goku also lands there, and the Kents decide to raise both of them together. Clark goes to a normal school, and Goku is homeschooled. It's discovered that Superman has powers. Clark is interested in becoming a superhero, but Goku isn't very interested in that. But he is interested in all the powers that Clark has and wants to learn how to do the things that he does, but obviously he doesn't get super hearing and things like that. But he is able to learn heat vision in his own form where he can shoot eye beams, like how he learned Kamehameha Decapit from Master Roshi. And he trains himself to one day he tries to be as strong as his brother and competing, and every once in a while he would spar with Superman. And one day he realized he was falling behind his potential, so he decides to write a letter to his parents and go out on his own, and him and Superman have a talk, and Superman ends up letting him go. He after Superman leaves, he sees kryptonite falling from the space, or he sees an asteroid falling from space. He goes to it, picks it up. It's a green rock. He decides to take it with him on his travels, and he ends up running into Lex Luthor. Right, he ends up running into Lex Luthor, who is frustrated because he was being abused by his father. And to cheer him up, he ends up giving him the green rock that he found from space, and this does the trick, not knowing that he had just ran into two people that will have a large impact on his life. Right, so that's my brief summary of that. I've never done a summary like that. Let me know how y'all felt about that. And then later on, he meets Black Cat, learns the art of boxing, gets approached by Mercy Graves. He ends up getting hired by Lex Luthor, who tasks him with this radar that can track kryptonite all over the globe, which leads him to Themyscira, which leads us to Goku fights with Wonder Woman. So, yeah, that's the recap. Y'all can watch this for the detailed version of that. So let's get into it. This will finally catch us up for my remastered version, because in this one, I'm going to do this episode 3 and 4, both parts. So let's get it started. Goku blasts through the clouds with the new jetpack Lex gave him on a mission for the green rocks located on his radar. And as the signature approaches, he is surprised to find a hidden island in front of him. Goku flies lower to the ground and realizes that more than likely the kryptonite is going to be in the waters within this island as his radar leads him forward. So he drops down to examine the water, and while he was doing it, a young Princess Diana was enjoying the view of Themyscira as she sat on the edge of a cliff that she had made for herself as her private spot for her to be alone in her thoughts. Goku looks up to see a girl his age on a cliff and decides to climb up the hill to introduce himself. But when he says hello, Diana is surprised to see someone here, and even more surprised to see that it is a boy on the Amazon's island, as it was forbidden. At first, Goku was happy to see someone his age on this secret island, but his joy became confusion as Diana became aggressive and told him he was not supposed to be there, and then she began to attack him. And while all that was going on, Superman was gliding through his new home in Metropolis, pursuing the robbery of an unarmed truck as bullets bounced off his body effortlessly, rather. One of the criminals decided to pull out the big guns and fired a grenade launcher at the flying blur of blue, and the impact did no damage to the airborne hero. The young adult Superman stops the crime easily, but his mind is currently elsewhere as he looks at the clouds in the sky. But then he remembered he has to get back into his suit to help Lois out reporting the scene of the crime. Clark arrived just in time for Lois to begin the journalist's job, of what happened at the scene, as she was the first to arrive. And as they make it back to the Daily Planet, Superman wonders what his younger brother Goku is up to, and he hopes he has at least made a friend his age on his journey so far. And then we bring back to while Clark was wondering, Goku was dodging the tip of a blade by the young Amazonian princess. Diana cleaves through a tree with ease as Goku avoids the strike, narrowly losing strands of his hair in the process. Goku is on defensive as he tries to explain this misunderstanding of why he was on this island and what he was doing there, until he eventually comes to a halt and tells his attacker to at least fight him without a weapon since he was unarmed, since that would be only fair. Begrudgingly, the Amazon inserts her blade into the ground, bound by her sense of honor. And Goku puts on a smile and cracks his knuckles, now that the odds are even, and Diana wonders if this boy was going to be a worthy opponent. The pair trade blows with each other, getting hits in while they can, and as they maneuver through the forest of Themyscira. Scratches, sweat, and bruises coat their bodies as they battle for victory, and both of them are enjoying the challenge as they face off with one another. The battle comes to a standstill as the duo size each other up, expecting the next move. Diana smirks at her opponent as she prepares to end this battle with the final decisive blow, and Goku is unnerved by the facial expression he is getting. Then suddenly Wonder Woman takes to the sky with a great leap, and Goku follows her movements, but his vision becomes blurred by the sun, so he decides to follow her shadow instead. He narrowly avoids the sky stomp as Diana crashes into the ground like a boulder. The force was so epic that the floor beneath began to collapse into the river. Diana began to panic as a result because at this point she was vulnerable because she didn't know how to swim, and that's at this point where Goku decided to make a move of his own. He grabbed hold of her hand to stop her from falling. Diana is surprised by the assistance of her enemy and looks up at the boy who started pulling her up, and she began to question the things that she was taught. Maybe all men weren't as bad as she thought. But before she could thank this boy, he dropped like a sack of potatoes as a group of Amazons showed up and grabbed his tail from behind, which was apparently his weakness, his weak spot. Afterwards, they imprisoned Goku and went to report their finding to Queen Hippolyta. Alright, now it's the end of episode 3, and like I said, we're going to do episode 3 and 4, and then we'll be caught up with the story that I had done previously, and then I can proceed further. So let's get episode 4 as well. Which brings us to episode 4, and after this episode, we'll be caught up, like I said, with this remastered Goku and DC story. So let's get to it. Hippolyta approaches the imprisoned boy, who is now awake and shouting for his release, but the queen of the Amazons wanted true answers from the boy, not believing him. So she ropes his neck with the lasso of truth and learns of his whole life story and what ultimately brought him to their island. Diana spies on the interrogation and is surprised by the boy's story and realizes that he wasn't a spy for man after all. However, his true story wasn't going to save him from the sword, as Hippolyta had no interest in altering the rules of the execution for the boy. That is, until her very own daughter approached her and pleaded for the boy's cause by bringing up the fact that Goku saved her from dropping into a ravine that might have drowned her. Hippolyta begrudgingly changed her mind and said that the boy could live, but he wouldn't be able to leave the island due to the threat of him exposing their existence to the evil man outside of Themyscira. Diana then personally travels to Goku's cell to release him, and the Saiyan is happy to be unchained finally. To cheer up Goku, Diana decides to take him to the Colosseum for training, and Goku is excited to see what the hype was all about. After that day, Goku would often train with Diana in the Colosseum. Very often in their battles, it would end in draws most of the time, but Diana had more technical wins than Goku on certain training courses. Goku also trained with the Amazon warriors, who taught him how to use weapons, and the weapon Goku preferred was a wooden staff, and the Amazons were impressed by how fast the boy could learn techniques. The duo would often train to exhaustion and liked how they had someone their age who could push them to become better by training harder, and they had developed a friendly rivalry. And sometimes the pair would even end up falling asleep in the same room because after sparring matches, they would talk about their upbringings, and Goku would often tell Diana about how stronger his older brother Clark was. And Diana was also surprised to hear that Goku grew up isolated as well because he was homeschooled. unlike his brother, so he didn't know much about the affairs of his own world. Eventually, they became more than just rivals. Now they were good friends. But after a while, Goku remembered he needed to gather the rocks for Lex Luthor and told Diana about this as well. And she knew that Goku wasn't allowed to leave the island, but she never told Goku this detail directly. And he never tried to exit until now, and she was conflicted by this announcement. But ultimately, Wonder Woman decided she would help her friend with this task and would even let him leave the island in secret if she had to. Right? She was going to help him leave no matter what, basically. She came to that decision because that's what a real friend would do. Meanwhile, though, while Goku was getting ready to leave the island, Dr. Barbara Minerva was entering the island, and she had paid Giganta to be her bodyguard on her expedition in search of an ancient dagger. Goku dove in the water where the rock resided, and Diana waited from above, still unable to swim herself. While at the same moment, Dr. Minerva had shot an aggressive boar that was charging her. The sound was loud enough to be heard from a distance, and the two preteens heard the sound, and Diana ran towards its direction, leaving Goku in the waters below by himself as he wondered what was going on. Diana sees the doors of a long abandoned temple with a woman in pink standing in the doorway defensively, and the Amazon does not recognize her as a fellow Amazonian and inquires why is she trespassing, and Giganta simply smirks. The question is unanswered, so Diana gets physical and punches the older woman in her face, believing that she was a hostile intruder. Giganta responds to the attack by kicking the Amazonian in the chest, sending her backwards. And within a moment, she begins to grow in size, about the size of a building, standing over Diana, ready to step on her like a new pair of boots. Now, Diana watches the actions in slow motion as they occur, until suddenly the step is thwarted by the red eye beams of an angry Goku, who had now arrived on the stage to assist his downed friend, slightly panting from using his eye beams, because he had never learned proper energy control, so that took a lot of stamina away from him. The blast had put Giganta on her glutes, and Goku prepared himself for the battle to come as his red eyes changed back to black. Giganta recovered more mad than ever as she looked at the two preteen brats that were now giving her trouble. One had spiky hair and appeared to be wet from water, and the other appeared to be a girl of royalty covered in scuff marks from their encounter. The two young warriors split up as they attacked the behemoth of a woman, getting in little pot shots for a while that annoyed the Titan. But eventually, Giganta was able to kick Wonder Woman into the ruins of the temple, knocking out the wind of the warrior in the process. But before she could do any further harm, she began to be pelted by a volley of incoming arrows from other warrior Amazons who had finally made it to the scene to assist Diana in defeating this intruder. And because of this, Giganta began sending shockwave quakes at the Amazonians, who were now in trouble, until Giganta was once again blindsided by a log to the face from Goku, who had begun throwing trees at the enlarged female while she was distracted. The sun had gone down as this action transpired, and this time Giganta was solely focused on this monkey boy who kept causing the most damage to her person, so she decided to end him first. She shook the ground, which caused Goku to lose his footing, and while he was distracted, she smashed him into a mountain with her massive fists. The action brought tears to the eyes of his friend, who thought she just saw his demise. Giganta looked down at the boy she smashed to a pulp, triumphantly as he fell to the ground with tattered clothes as she put her foot near his downed body. And while on his back, Goku laid his eyes on a full moon in the sky that caused his body to twitch as his eyes began to glow a shade of red. Giganta felt the ground below her begin to stir, and watched as Goku began to transform into some sort of beast in an act of horror, until suddenly she was in the presence of a great ape, whose roar was heard throughout all of Themyscira. Ozaru Goku punched Giganta in the face with enough force to crack the sound barrier, sending her backwards. Giganta picked up a tree and turned it into a stake as she sized up the enraged monkey, ready for a real fight to begin. But she quickly realized she was now outmatched in strength by this feral beast. The boy had become far more aggressive and way stronger, and now she was now on the heavy defensive, and she began to panic. And ultimately, that led to her defeat by the hands of the great ape, who towered above her unconscious form, victorious, beating his chest. Diana watched the beast celebrate his victory, shaking the island with his steps, as she quickly realized it was her duty to stop this new threat to Themyscira before a rampage could ensue. But Diana still believed this beast contained her innocent friend Goku within it, so she was conflicted, but resolved by her responsibility. And she began to remember that Goku's weakness appeared to be his tail, so she assumed it was the source of his power, so she came up with a plan of her own. She raised her sword and told the Amazon warriors her plan of action, and they began distracting the beast so she could sever his tail personally. And her plan was successful because she managed to slice off the tail of the raging beast, which caused him to shrink. The Amazons watched the monster shrink back into Goku, and they were in awe by the transformation, viewing the child as some sort of omen. Wonder Woman looked down at her sleeping friend, concerned about him and happy that this fight was finally over. And Dr. Barbara Minerva had escaped with the dagger she was looking for, without her presence even being discovered, and Giganta was now captured and placed in an Amazonian prison for questioning and punishments for her crimes on Themyscira. So yeah, man, that's going to be that for that video. Hope you guys liked it. Be sure you like the video. And let's get the subscribers. I'm trying to get to 1,000, man. We get monetized. Whenever I get monetized, I'm really going to go crazy with these videos, man. So yeah, stay tuned to the next one. Gone. Peace.